men are the foundations of the society. Men are the foundation of the family. Men are the foundation of their homes. But men are foundations to their children as well. Men are foundations to their boys, especially, as well as to the girls. So now, I have also told you that there are two main behavioral patterns for the boy and for the girl. The behavioral pattern for the first behavioral pattern for the boy is called the aggressive pattern of behavior. There is the second one, the second pattern of behavior for the boys, which we are going to have not started talking about. So I think today I want to finish talking about the first category of boys that we have who have the aggressive pattern of behavior. And that's what we're going to finish on today. So the first response of boys to the absence of a father is aggression and proactiveness and protest, some outward expression. But there is the second category of boys that have a totally different response to an absentee father. And that response is normally withdrawn, depression, or things like that. So, that we'll be able to look at later on. So, everything that you have been hearing from me right now is just the reaction of the first category of boys. And those category of boys are normally the boys that are more strong, or that are much more stronger in their character, that are much more emotional, that are much more choleric or sanguine. Those are the people we're looking at right now. But later in the week, we are going to look at the second category of boys and the way they react to the absence of a father. Now, I've spoken a lot about how these kind of aggressive boys react in attaining goals. I've also spoken about how they react in terms of joining gangs and cults or cultic groups, and in how they respond in terms of anger, in terms of emotions, in terms of different ways. I've spoken in different areas of how this affects the boys. Now, I want to talk about boys who grew up without a father and who are now men. Boys who are now men because they grew up without fathers, but they are now grown-ups and they are now men. So as men, how are they responding? Especially, I want to talk about the attitude of these boys as men who are now men in relations to two categories of people. I want to talk about how men who grew up without a father relate to women, how they relate to their wives and women in general, and of course how they relate to the second category of people that I want to talk about. How they relate to is how they relate to their parents. How they relate to their parents. So I hope I'll be able to cover that this morning, and then we'll jump on the second category of boys who grew up without a father. So let's look at how do these boys who grow up without a father relate to girls or to women. Like I said, there are two categories of reactions, but we are talking about the aggressive boys now, the strong boys, the aggressive, the choleric and sanguine boys. How do they relate to girls and to women and to their wives? The first thing you must notice is that these boys they have constant need for self-affirmation. They have constant need for self-assurance, self-affirmation, because they didn't have that from their father. They didn't have that from their parents. So since they did not have the affirmation and the assurance as a man that a father should bring into the life of a boy, even though these men are now men of 30 years old or 40 years old or 50 years old, but that inadequacy in affirmation, the inadequacy in establishing them in who they are. Like a father is the person that gives any child in the house the assurance, the basic assurance that you are welcome in this house. This is your family. You are okay. Hey, give him high five, play with him, bring him on the knee, tell him that he's okay, that everything is all right with him, that he's welcome the way he is, that is okay, that is fine, that is, to give him that affirmation as a man that he is okay, that is accepted, that, everything is doing is good, that this is the way to do things. And that affirmation is needed both for the boys and for the girls. So when there is no such affirmation in the life of a boy, one of the things that the boys do, the aggressive boys, is that they keep on looking for that affirmation all their lives. They keep on going in search of self-affirmation. And unfortunately, one of the means they try to affirm themselves is through a weaker person, through a weaker vessel. So this is not all men, but this is just in terms of men that are having strong will, the men that are proactive, the men that are in the aggressive position, in the aggressive manifestation, who manifest this lack of affirmation from the father, who manifest it in the aggressive outward way. Most of the time, they are what people call in the word womanizers. They are the men that go about looking for women. And what are they trying to do? Men naturally are hunters, and men naturally are adventurers. Men, it is natural for all men. Doesn't matter either with men or without a man. He grew up with a man or without a man. All men go after the girls, because that is what nature does. That's what nature has given to them. All men are the aggressors. They look for girls. They chase after girls. They date girls. But when it comes to the men that grew up without a father, and they are the aggressors, they actually look at women as their trophies. They look at women as their trophies, and they target them, and they kind of collect them. Like the way Olympic athlete collects medals, and is collecting its medals and things like that. That is exactly the way these men try to collect women. They try to win them over and try to collect them and try to have as many of them as possible as their trophies, So they want to do as much, they want to get as much victory as possible. They want to get as much affirmation as possible. And for every single girl that they win, they are patting themselves in the back, and they are compensating for that emptiness that they had from their father's house. So that affirmation, that confirmation that they did not receive, that assurance that they did not receive, that they are okay, that they are good enough, they want to find out if they are good enough. And one of the ways for them to find out is through the woman. And I know that this thing I'm saying is very sad for the girls and for women, but if I don't tell you, I don't think anybody is going to tell you guys, you ladies. I don't think anybody is going to tell you. And that's one of the reasons the girls should be careful, because there are men out there that are just wolves, and there are men out there that are just, that are just meeting their own needs, and their need is not for marriage. Let me tell you something. Only 10% of men are having a need for marriage. 90% of men don't have a need for marriage. They have a need for sex. Only 10% have a need for marriage. So why do they all marry? Well, because that is what the society wants, number one. Number two, because that is the only way some girls will agree to live with them. So, so unfortunately, that's why this cohabiting has become so popular, and it's even been legalized in a lot of countries right now. So unfortunately, these boys who grew up without a father, even when they are 50 years old or 60 years old, they are still trying to get affirmation. They are still trying to get the acclaim. They are still trying to get the lotteries and glory, by talking to, that is what Donald Trump was calling locker room or whatever, locker room talk. That is what he was calling locker room talk. He was just brushing, it's no problem. That's him. That's nothing. That's just wrong. They don't think about what hurt that brings to women. They don't think about the pain the woman experiences. They don't think about the pain. Those kind of boys, they have more pain in them. The pain they have is their emptiness. And the way to remove their pain, the way to feel that voidness, that emptiness that they have, is just to conquer, to win. Sometimes it's winning in business, sometimes it's winning in life, sometimes it's being better, competitive, just being competitive and winning in different areas of life, but also in subduing women, in winning over women. Now, they don't do it they don't do it in a honorable way, in the way it's supposed to do, in the way a real man would do. And the way a real man would do is to win the authority of the woman by producing fruits of good fruits, by producing the fruits of kindness, acts of love, care, attention, covering, support, strength, pillar. And instead of being there for the girl and showing her as a father, being a father there to her, and then multiplying that good that he has manifested. Unfortunately, most men don't have time for that. These kind of men, this category of men, they don't have time for that. They have their emptiness inside of them that they need to fill up. They have their pain inside of them that they need to remove. And they go out, they remove it any way possible. And if it is the women that are available, he uses them to remove. They use them to remove their own pain. So they do anything they need to do to get their needs met. So as painful as this might sound, and as unpleasant as it might be, you ladies need to know that there are a lot of men who are out there. And the thing with this kind of men is that they are used to winning. And since they are used to winning, they will do anything. They will go to any length to make sure that they win a woman. And that's why the Bible is absolutely right. That is why a lady should not open up herself as a heart or, she should not open up herself to any man apart from in marriage. If you open up your heart and you open up yourself to begin to have sex with a man before marriage, you have yourself to blame, because these kind of men, they don't care for marriage. They want to get the accolades, they want to get the trophies, and they want to, we say, or women will say, they break the heart of women, and they are breaking the heart. But he's not thinking about breaking the heart. His own heart is already broken. He wants to heal his own heart. And you know what? Everybody in this world, at the end of the day, care for themselves more than they care for the other person. So these kind of men, should, they just want to fulfill their own needs first before they think about if they are hurting the girl or not. Now, Deborah Cole is saying, maybe we should all become a nun. Deborah, I don't think becoming a nun, yes, I think it would be a good idea to be a nun if you are not wedded, if you are not married. If you are an unwed lady, if you are a married woman, you should have to live like a nun. Yes, that's the way to live. But it is when you are married, then you are free to live like a married woman. But if you are not married, I think it's proper to live like a nun. And that is how to save yourself. That is how to protect yourself. And just for you to know. So for most of the men, it is just a way of, getting their needs met. And, in some of the cases, their needs met, not necessarily just for them to have sex, even though they have sex, but they want to subdue, most of all. They want to subdue the girl. They want to win. They want to win. So, and unfortunately, that is the kind of attitude you have about these girls, so about these men. So these kind of men they like to have many girlfriends. These kind of men like to go from one girl to the other, and even when they are, unfortunately, even when they are married, sometimes they betray their wives. And some of them are very aggressive because they have pain inside their heart. So these kind of men like to do what they want in marriage. They like everything to be their own way. They don't listen to their wives. They don't listen to the other side of, the partner in marriage. They like to have their way in everything. It is almost impossible to win an argument with them or to try to convince them about anything, because, they think that if they compromise or they agree to something, that they are losing. So that's why for a lady, it is a dangerous thing to marry a man that cannot repent, or that cannot be broken, or a man that is not broken, or a man that is not humble. Because when in marriage, it will become catastrophic, because they would like for the woman to do their will and to do things only the way they understand it. So, so this kind of men in marriage, unfortunately, most often become aggressive. They become violent. They, sometimes they could abuse. They could abuse their spouses or their girls or their women. And so that's why these men also should know these things, because sometimes some men don't know why they behave the way they behave. Some men don't understand what is really happening to them. And so it's important for them to know that these are the consequences, some of the consequences of what happens to the man, especially a strong man who is aggressive, who is active, the way they become, that's how they see themselves. They, like I said, it's not only in terms of women that they are aggressive. They are also aggressive most of the time in terms of success. They are also aggressive in just winning in anything, especially in politics. And these people are mostly attracted to places where they have power. And unfortunately, a lot of these kind of men are in the church. And they are preachers also, because they want power. These kind of people are attracted to power. They are attracted to where they will get recognition. They are attracted to where they will be given power and authority. So if they will be given power in church, if they will be promoted, given power and recognized, and if they know that there will be there will be people of authority in the church, they are the kind of people who grow in the ladder, in the career ladder. They are the people who grow fast. They are the people in the church recognize and promote very fast, because they are ready to pay the price. They are ready to do anything for them to get recognition from the leadership of the church or from the denomination, and because they like always to be in the front. They always like to be in the forefront, and because they are always in the forefront, a lot of ladies might be deceived by that and might end up falling for them. But that's why you must make sure that the man you are dating with is healed from these things first before you start a relationship with him. And a man also must make sure that he is healed of these things. He has to look to to work on himself. I'm not talking about going for deliverance from morning to night, and this is not a deliverance matter. This is a character matter. It's something that you need to work on your character. You have to notice those weaknesses, and you have to stop and identify them, that you have this problem, and begin to walk on the word of God for the word to become flesh in you, and for you to be able to, adapt the principle of honor so that you'll be able to honor ladies. And then you need to adapt love and compassion so that you'll be able to have compassion for the girls and for the ladies more rather than, for yourself only. Another thing you need to develop as a man is to develop empathy. You need to develop empathy to be able to, the ability to put yourself in the place of others and to be able to, rather strive to please others before you please yourself. So, so those are the kind of things, those are the kind of things that a man needs to know, to do, to be able to get himself healed from these kind of situations. Now, somebody is asking, how do you know if he's healed or not? Well, find out by following these principles I just spoke about. Does he put other people before himself? Is it just about himself, or is it about you? Is it how much apathy does he show? How much understanding does he display? How much less of himself does he push forward? How much does he put other people's interests ahead of his own interests? How submissive is he to leaders and to other people? How humble is he? Is he meek? So all these kind of things, all these kind of questions will help the lady to know if he's broken and if he's different or not. So you can see it in their actions and in their attitude. Like I said, most of these boys are always arguing. Most of these boys are always they have conflict. They always have entering into some quarrels with the partners they have, with their future wife or their present wife, because they want to be right all the time, and they are not seeing the argument of the lady, and that always leads to conflict and arguments and disagreements, and that means that the guy is not broken yet, and that means he's not there yet. So you might want to slow down in that kind of relationship. So unfortunately, because these men grew up without a family, without a father, and they didn't have that establishment, they didn't have that affirmation that they needed, they didn't have that that acceptance of a father. Unfortunately, many of them end up marrying. End up divorcing. Many of them end up divorcing. So many of them end up divorcing. Their family, they are not able to hold the family together, and most of the time, the reason why they divorce is because they want to become a dictator in the family. Many of them want to become a dictator. They want to tell the lady what to do, what not to do, where to go and where not to go. And a woman, some women will be submissive. Some women will be ready to submit and to say anything they do. But not all women will be submissive to the extent of being controlled and being dominated. Totally. A lot of these kind of men, they want to dominate. They want to have their way. They want to dominate. They basically become dictators in the family. And that's what normally leads to divorce. And of course, another thing that leads to divorce is because they are always like adventurers. They are always going out there. That's why this particular practice is popular in Nigeria, whereby men have wives at home, but they are always going about like wanderers and like hunters, looking for other women. And because they didn't have a relationship with their fathers. Because most of the men in our countries, even though they could have a father at home, but those fathers, most of the time, those fathers most of the time are not there for them. They didn't bring them up. They didn't show them good example. So since these boys didn't have a father like that, they didn't have that need met of affirmation and of acceptance. So they keep on going from one woman or the other and enjoying the acceptance they receive from those women and from that attention. And so that's another problem that this kind of men have. So talking about this kind of men's attitude to women, this kind of women, this kind of men in the family, or not, even when they are not married, they try to display their power. They use their power as the argument. So sometimes they use their, the power of the man could be in their money. So this kind of people will use any power as a leverage to dominate the woman, as a leverage to oppress the woman and to win over the woman, to subdue the woman. So if they are rich, if they are well-to-do, they use that advantage, monetary advantage, to manipulate her and to subdue her. Sometimes if they are directors or the bosses at work, they also use their position to have advantage, to exercise advantage over the woman. And that is all a sign of lack of father, of not having a father. Or maybe you had a father there somewhere, but it was never there in your life. Having a male in the house doesn't mean having a father. So these kind of attitudes are what points to the fact that people are not having good, they didn't grow up with good father-son relationship. I want you to look at one photograph here. How men, if this photograph might show a little bit of an illustration of how men try to have dominion over the woman. The woman doesn't have too much money. She has little money. But the guy stands on the height of that money and gets a leverage, uses money as a leverage, you see. Uses money to stand taller than the woman so that it could be superior to her, not so that it could lift her up. The thing with power is that power must be used to lift other people up. Power must be used to support other people, to lift other people to your level. Power must be used to lift the person who is lower than you, who is weaker than you, so that the person could come up to your level. And normal men, if they are real fathers, they are supposed to use their power, either it's financial power or physical power or whatever leverage they've got, to lift up the woman and to bring the woman to their level and to make sure that the woman is raised up and the woman doesn't feel inferior. But when a man is, in this category of men that I'm talking about, that didn't have a father, and they are trying to affirm themselves, instead of using their power and their authority to lift up the woman and to strengthen her in her weakness and to cover for her weakness, they will rather use that power they have, either it's monetary power or positional power, as a leverage to make sure that they are superior to her, and they prove to her that they are the man in the house. That's the kind of same situation when people use the Bible to be a leverage to oppress the woman. And I'm sure you've heard of stories like when men come in and say, "You must listen to me." So why should I listen to you? Oh, because the Bible says I'm the head of the family. The man is the head of the family. So you must listen to me. Whatever I say, you must do. Or whatever I say is the order. Just because the Bible says you are the head of the family, what have you done to deserve that yourself? What have you done to affirm your authority? What have you done to display your authority that you deserve that entitlement? What have you done to confirm that you have that you have won that right to be honored like that? If you are going to just be hitting every woman in the head that you are the head of the family because the Bible says, well, that is the kind of thing we are talking about. That is, the desire to dominate another person just because of a kind of inferiority complex that you are having in yourself. So, unfortunately, men like this they use women as their subject of, and as their object of supremacy, So one of the ways to overcome that is to begin to honor women, is to begin to see women as equal to you, is to begin to see women as human beings as well, to begin to see women as people who God created at the same time and gave the same authority to. Begin to see women as people who are co-heir of the grace of God, people who are God's princesses, people who deserve to be honored, people who are daughters of God, people who deserve to be respected. So instead of just saying because she's a woman, she must just obey. And if you are seeing a woman only from that perspective, somebody that must obey, somebody that just must just submit, then it means you are seeing her as somebody who is inferior to you. And if you are saying, if the fact that a man is the head doesn't mean that the woman is inferior at all. It's actually talking about responsibility, and it's talking about being the slave. He that wants to be the head must be the slave, must be the servant of all. So actually, for you to be the head, your headship is demonstrated by your ability to serve. So you must, for men to overcome that tendency in them, they must learn to see the women differently. They must learn to see the women as equal partners that deserve to be loved, that deserve to be respected, and basically do what Jesus did. The Bible says that husband is a symbol of Jesus in his attitude to the church. And so, if you are real godly men that want to copy Jesus, we just have to treat our partners, our wives, like Jesus treats the church. And Jesus sacrifices everything for the church, including his own life. So women are not supposed to be used as an object of self affirmation and self dignity or self-esteem and oppression. Okay, now let me talk about the attitude. What is the attitude of this kind of boys or this kind of men to their parents? How do these people relate to their parents? The boys who are brought up in the homes where there was no father, or there was no father attention, no fatherly care. How do they relate to their parents eventually? And even to their mothers who raised them up. How do these people relate to their mothers and to their parents? And that is interesting to know. I'm going to talk about how the other side, the other children, other boys also relate. I'm talking right now about one category of men, the aggressive men, the aggressive, proactive men. How do they relate to their parents? Then I will also talk about the other category of men, the passive and the withdrawn and more depressive men. How do they respond? But that will be later. Right now, I'm dealing with just one category of men, the category of men that are strong, aggressive, and proactive. So how do they relate to their parents? Unfortunately, most of these boys who grow up to be men, they always have bad relationship with their parents, especially with their father. These boys normally have anger issue, and they always maintain that because they were rejected by their fathers, and they are always angry with them, with their fathers. And sometimes they are even angry with their mothers. But when it comes to the mother, with these boys, this kind of men or boys have a mixed feeling. Sometimes they love the mother, and the mother can see that he loves sometimes them, that the boy loves her. But sometimes he behaves in such a way that the mother could think that this boy doesn't love me at all, he's not grateful. So they have this kind of feeling in them, mixed feeling. So for those mothers who are bringing up their sons as single mothers, I would say that there is a soft spot in the heart of that your son. It doesn't matter how he's behaving right now. It doesn't matter how he's treating you. It doesn't matter if he's respecting you or not respecting you. It doesn't matter what he's saying with his mouth. At the end of the day, he loves you deep inside his heart and his soul, but he only gets angry a lot. These kind of guys get angry a lot. Especially they even get angry from too much love from their mother. If their mother is trying to show them too much love, too much attention, that irritates them even the more. And they get angry, they get annoyed. Now, I told my story yesterday with my grandmother. Well, that's a typical story. Even though I loved my grandmother so much, she was the person I loved most in this whole world. But I was offending her also. So the same situation here. A lot of these boys would love their mothers, but they are still offending her. They are still offending her because they are not showing attention to her. They are not showing kindness. They are not, too patient with their mothers. They might, say rude words to their mothers. They might be abusive in words, and they might attack the mother sometimes. They might not accept what the mother is saying, but because they are trying always to say that they are strong enough by themselves, they want to show that they are strong. They want to display and demonstrate the fact that they don't need help, and they don't need. But when they need help, they say it. Of course, they come around. But when things are good, they try to say they don't need help and that they are okay, and that their mother has not done anything for them. But at the end of the day, at the back of their head, they know that their mother is precious to them, and that their mother, is their love, and their mother is the only thing they have. But sometimes the anger they have for their absentee father, they release it on the mother, because there is no other person to release that anger on. And they might not even be talking about their father at all. So sometimes the mother doesn't even know that they have anger towards the father. And sometimes the mother might be thinking that, but I am not the one who left you. I'm the one who stood there for you. And the one who left you, you are not even attacking him. It's me you are attacking. Really, their anger is against the man. But because the man is not there for them to be able to respond to show that anger to, they are releasing that anger and venting that anger upon the man, upon the woman, upon their mother that is there. Unfortunately, if a woman does not understand this, and parents who don't understand what is going on with their children, unfortunately, this thing I'm going to say is very bad now, but I'm going to say, unfortunately, a lot of these children, because of their aggression and because of their, they cause problems, all these kind of children cause problems left and right. They bring disgrace and shame on the family, and they always run into trouble, one trouble or the other. So as a result of that, I'm going to say this, but it's not a pleasant thing, but I'm just going to say the way it is. Unfortunately, these kind of boys, they often are responsible for the early death of their parents. The parents of this kind of boys most often die early. They die early either because they are too worried for this kind of children, or they are too concerned, or they get cancer, or they get sick out of worrying too much, or they get a heart attack, or they have too much to deal with. And a lot of the parents of this kind of kids go to early death, early grave, just because they don't know how to deal with it. just because they don't know how to respond to to the situation. But when you know that no matter how angry your son is against you, when you know that inside his heart, deep in his heart, he has love for you. Most women don't know that. Most parents don't know that. That even the most aggressive boy, he has moments of soberness. He has moments of reflection when he will remember. He will be remembering everything that the parents, especially the mother, have done for him. And even though he might not show it, he might not show the weakness, and he might be showing the opposite. But that kind of mother, should just keep on loving and showing, covering, and that's why we did the father, because that father was never there to show that kind of covering and show that kind of support. So the mother, should just be there, keep on being there, keep on being good to those kind of guys. One day, God will touch their hearts, and their hearts will be totally broken, and they will come back and they will show a whole huge gratitude, a whole lot of gratitude to the person whom they own everything to. But unfortunately, in most cases, they never make it. They never make it because their parents die. They die earlier than they thought. Now, even though I said I'm talking about the boys right now, but you will see that a lot of ladies will be able to recognize themselves also in some of these things that I'm saying. It is possible that women also could have the same tendencies. So, just for you to be able to know that it's not just about men. This could be truth about women too. But at the end of the day, if you are a boy like that or a man like that grew up without a father, make sure that you are there for your mother, because your mother is expecting you to become a father to her. So a son like that should now turn back and cover for the needs of the mother and cover the nakedness of that mother, because that mother was never covered by the husband, and the husband was never a father to her, and so that mother is a victim as much as the son himself is a victim. And now the son is the one who is supposed to go back to protect and to give that covering and be that foundation to your very mother. So men are actually supposed to, but sons can actually become fathers to their daughters, to their parents, to their mothers. Yeah, so what can I say? What are some of the solutions and the answers out of this situation for this kind of men? Like I said, I already mentioned trying to find a mentor. A man like this should go and try to be, he shouldn't just be on his own. It is dangerous for this kind of men to just be on their own. It is safer if this kind of men will go and have a mentor, have somebody there who will be there for them and who they will respect, and they will be able to, to listen to, especially at critical points in their lives. So a mentor will help. Number two, this will take the grace of God now. Those kind of kids need a total brokenness. They need to be totally broken before God and learn to be meek and humble. Learn to be meek and humble before God and then before men. Next thing that those kind of women need is those kind of men need is they need to be able to learn to honor women, to respect women, all women, to respect and honor women. Another thing they need is for them to be in a discipline. So if you are having boys like that who are growing up without a father, give them over to sports. Give them over to some sports. where there is a trainer, where there is a coach. Because if they are in a community or in societies or clubs where there is a leader, a strong man figure, a coach, that will really help those kind of boys, because they will learn to listen, they will learn to submit, they will learn to honor and respect other partners or the opponents or other people's opinion. So that will be very, very helpful. Another thing, of course, is that this kind of person needs to also develop the culture of honor to all men. So the ability to put the interests of other people above his own interest. The ability to put the interests of other people above his own interests. Yeah. It might be a good thing to have an uncle, a relative who might be a successful man, or because those kind of men need a hero. They need a hero. So you need to put a hero before them. You need to make sure that they have somebody that they are following or that they are admiring. And if that person that they admire is, brings them close and covers for them and speaks to them, that is another very helpful instrument of fighting all these things that I've been talking about for 2 days. Yeah. And that's why sometimes a pastor could be in a better position. A pastor could be in a very good position to mentor this kind of men and to help this kind of men to become honorable men, to become men of God, to become men that who are honorable, who will honor women and who will live right. So yes, so those are the kind of ways that people could overcome and fight these kind of tendencies. And of course, self-development is another thing that people could do to help themselves come out of these traps. And of course, apart from self-development, they could also, another thing that could be done is to always seek to put the interest of others, I mean, in the sense that to work for others, to become a servant, servitude, service and servitude, to become a servant, stewardship, just to determine in your heart that I'm a servant, I'm a steward, I'm going to honor other people, I'm going to work for other people, I'm going to be lifting other people up, I'm going to be working to help other people become who they're supposed to become. And that's another way. So you don't want to rule over people, but you want to become a steward to them. That's another way to fight this kind of situation. All right, that's it for today. God bless. Bye.